Write them in the chat. And now I introduce the first speaker, Karolina Zmitrowicz, and her topic is 10 Deadly Signs of Business Analysts. So, Karolina, you can start.
Thank you very much. I think I'm live right now, so let me share my screen. Yeah. And let's go. Yeah, welcome at my presentation. I am going to tell you about 10 deadly sins of business analysis for business analysts. 10 sins, of course, according to me. And let's start from a kind of philosophical question. What is a business analyst responsible for? For many things, you can say. For elaborating requirements, for identification of business need, for proposing solution, for delivering the value. And that is basically the key point. So our main responsibility is to understand the context, understand the business need, propose solution that will bring some business value. Okay, that's important to understand what is our scope of responsibility and to understand what we can do wrong. And let's start with sin number 1. Sin number 1 could sound a little bit strange. One of the problems that I often notice when I observe business analysts at work is that actually they are lacking analytical skills, which sounds really strange. Business analysts are lacking analytical skills. What does it mean? Analytical skills are about ability to decompose the problem, to understand what is the reason of the problem, to understand what are the underlying causes and effects, to understand the kind of problem, ecosystem, constraints, conditions that are actually impacting the problem. Lack of analytical skills is also about no creativity. So we are actually reusing ready patterns, ready solutions. So we are thinking that what worked in previous project is also working in the given project, which is not really the case. And in effect, what we have solution that is actually not the proper solution because it is not addressing a real business need, because we don't understand the need. What else? We are relying on stakeholder opinions, proposals instead of proposing some alternative solutions, innovations. Yeah, we are just believing it what was said. What else could be the effect? The effect could be that we are focusing on something that is clearly visible and our analysis is not complete. So, for example, we are missing risks. We have no knowledge about risks. We are missing impact analysis of the change of on the various aspects of the organization. The final effect could be, unfortunately, that we fail to deliver business value. So, sin number 1, lack of analytical skills. The next one is about focusing on solutions, and that's actually a really big pain. That is something that I am observing very often, that we are thinking in terms of solutions, in terms of systems, solutions, some tools basically, and we are not trying to understand and address the business need. We are confusing solutions with needs, the same way as we are confusing requirements with solution. And just for example, if you are asking your stakeholder, hey, dear stakeholder, what system do you want? What feature do you want? What should be placed on a given mock-up? You are confusing solutions with needs. Your stakeholders, to be honest, no offense, they do not want a system. They do not need a system. The system is a tool. In order to understand what could be the proper tool, you need to understand what is the problem. First problem, then solution. If you will focus on solution, then the possible effect will be that you will deliver solution that will bring no value. You will deliver solution that could be even working, but will not be well suited to the context of organization, that could be seen valuable for some group of stakeholders and will be harmful from the perspective of the rest of the organization, because you will focus on a system and you will forget to understand what is the effect of the system, what could be the possible impact of the system, of the given solution, on the different areas of organization. Instead of trying to understand the real business problem, defining the business need, you already started thinking about solutions. The end effect, again, we will not deliver business value. We will deliver solution that is not solving the problem. And another sin, sin number 3. I would say that this is the most favorite one. We have problems with expressing information accurately. And probably from my experience, this is related to, unfortunately, a lack of requirements engineering skills. What is important? There are some terms that have quite similar meanings, like, for example, business goals, objectives, business needs, business requirements, different other levels of requirements. You can treat them as requirements that relate to different abstraction level. One of characteristic of requirements is they should be precise, measurable. If they are not, then unfortunately you are playing with words, you are not specifying information. Why it is important? Because in business analysis, we are communicating very often with different stakeholders. At every level of communication, there could be some noise, which in result will generate a problem that what I heard is something different that the customer, the stakeholder had in mind. We don't control words. We are just playing with the words without understanding that in our area, especially in our area, in the area of requirements, solution, when words have meaning, controlling words is really important. We are using generalizations, like, for example, the system should operate on every single browser. Every single browser. Great. We are making assumptions, like, for example, it's obvious that the system will be working on a given operational system. It's not obvious. It could be obvious for you, but not for the stakeholders. What else could be a problem? And this is a thing that is really annoying me, writing requirements. No, we are not writing requirements. You can write a letter. We are specifying requirements. Why the difference is important. Writing means that you are just formulating words in basically default manner, as you like. Specifying means that you are expressing information accurately. You can use a specific form, template. This is what I mean by specifying. If you don't control words, then we can expect some effects. Like, for example, you are providing requirements, business needs that are actually wrong. Not because they are wrong from the business perspective, because they are expressed, formulated in incorrect manner, which leads to making wrong decisions, which leads to wasting capabilities of organizations. We are generating risk, project risk and business risk, because someone will make a decision on the basis of wrong information. And let me cite Tom Gilb that told me once that every time he sees a requirement that is formulated in a way the system should be usable or should be user-friendly or should be fast or whatever, it's a poetry. It's not a requirement, it's a poetry. It has nothing to do with a real specification. The end effect is, again, we are not able to deliver business value from one single reason. The business value, the solution that's supposed to deliver the business value, will be based on incomplete, wrong information. Yeah, so that is why controlling words, the ability to express information accurately, precisely, measurable, is so important. And the next scene, number 4. This scene is about lack of reflection. Imagine that you are starting a project and the project is already started, initiated. There is some system that you need to deliver to, that you need to help to create. And are you asking questions? What is the goal of the system? What we are actually going to do? What we should deliver? What is the goal of the project? Are you asking these questions or are you just starting executing the plan? If this is the case, then probably you are missing this reflection that is necessary to question status quo, to ask sometimes stupid question about some assumption, especially these obvious ones. Question that will help you to understand if the things that you are actually doing are the right things. If creating the system makes sense, because it may happen that some time ago, someone made a decision that we are going to develop a system. And the decision was right at this moment of time. But now the situation is different. If you will not question, if you will not be able to look at the problem from a kind of perspective, distance, it may end in a situation when you are delivering solution that is not valid anymore, that is just not valuable anymore because the context changed. It can also happen that you are delivering solution that is not the optimal one. It's good, but not the best, because you forgot to consider some conditionals, some context changes, some conditions or constraints that appeared. In the end, again, we fail to deliver business value. Scene number 5. Managing expectations, or rather, lack of ability to manage expectations. There is a whole big discipline that is called expectation management. And it's about, at first, understanding what are different expectations of our stakeholders, which expectation will be kind of feasible, which are not. And as soon as we know what are the expectations, we can manage them. The problem is that very often we are not managing expectation because we are not even aware that they exist. And in effect, we probably believe that stakeholder will guess what is our plan, what is our approach to do the job, what they can expect. We assume that things are obvious. But for our stakeholders, they are not obvious because it may happen that this is the first time that they actually participate in project and they don't know what they can expect. If we will not manage expectation, that will happen that could mean that, for example, you are expecting that stakeholders will know what is your next step. You are expecting that stakeholders will provide you with information because that's obvious for you, but they don't know. Because you didn't communicate, you didn't understood their expectation, and you didn't communicate your expectations. In effect, frustration of stakeholders, because they expected you to deliver something, to bring some value, and you didn't. There is a risk of conflicts within the team with stakeholders. There is a risk of disagreements, delays, losses. What else? And that's really awful. Destruction of relationship with stakeholders. One of key success criteria for every project is stakeholder engagement. If you don't create the engagement through, among others, managing expectation, you will destroy relationships. So it's rather not possible in this case to assure that the project will be successful. What else? And again, it's really ugly. If you forgot to manage expectation, that leads to a question, are you really a professional and expert BA? Because it's a kind of must-have skill in our job, managing expectation. In the end, again, we failed to deliver business value. Why? Because business value is based, saying things shortly, on business needs. Part of business needs are expectations. If you do not know all the expectation and you are not able to manage them, you are not able to deliver business value that will really make stakeholder happy. That brings us to the next scene, lack of knowledge. Believe me, very often I am hearing things like, don't study, don't learn, don't train, just start working. Go to a project, learn from the practice. Yeah, that's a very nice way to learn very, very bad practices. Because without, fundamental knowledge, basics, you don't know which practice is bad, which is good. You don't know if the techniques, practices, tools that you are actually applying are applied in a wrong way or good way. You cannot evaluate it because you don't have knowledge. In effect, you are not doing stakeholder analysis. Why? Because you didn't even know that you should, because you don't have knowledge. You are not following process, or you didn't even start to build a process methodology framework, or however you will call it, because you don't have a knowledge that something like that should be created. You are using methods and techniques that are basically not appropriate for a given project, organization, stakeholders. Why? Because you don't have a knowledge about another methods. In the end, it may happen that you are wasting organizational resources, in the worst case, your customer resources, because you are just trying. Maybe I will try this tool, maybe this method, maybe this method. You are not able to make a reasonable decisions because you don't have knowledge. You don't have the toolbox. You don't have a knowledge about methodologies, techniques, methods. You don't know which methods you can apply in a given situation. In the end, it is basically about disrupting the whole definition of the business analyst role as a person that's supposed to bring the value. You are not bringing the value. You are just experimenting. In the next scene, this time from another perspective, methodological fanatism. So again, quite often I'm hearing things like, Scrum is the only way to go. User stories are the only method. Bubble Guide is the source of truth. Guys, we have really a lot of sources, methods, frameworks, things like Bubble Guide or PM book or whatever book. Yeah, there is in every project, from the definition, every project is unique. And you cannot say that a given method, framework, tool will be always working, will be always appropriate. If you are trying to, in a kind of fanatical way, trying to pursue a specific framework, specific approach, it may happen that you will follow a method that is completely not appropriate for a given customer. In the end, again, you are wasting resources. You are wasting time sometimes. You are making the team frustrated because you are using a method that is not working in a given context. In the end, again, you will fail to deliver business value. Scene number 8, ignoring feedback. I know what I am doing. I am doing my job very well. What can a programmer, tester, project manager say about my work? They have no clue. Maybe they don't have a clue. But Every member of the team, every stakeholder can give you feedback about your job, or results of your job, about your work products. And if we will not asking for feedback, then how can we know if our work products are good or not? They are good if they basically meet the informational requirements of the target audience. If they are not meeting these requirements, they are not good. If you don't ask about the feedback, you will not know. What can be the consequence of this problem? That you are making the same mistakes over and over again. And you don't even know that you are making a mistakes because you are not listening to the feedback or you are not asking for feedback. You can deliver work products of poor quality. Like, just for example, if your programmers or testers are complaining that, oh my God, this requirements is not so complete, I need to ask you. Yeah, that's a feedback. If developers are asking about details of your requirements, if they are asking or providing feedback like this requirement is not really complete, is not really measurable, or is not consistent with another requirements, it's again a feedback. And we should draw some conclusions. Otherwise, you are making the same mistakes over and over again, and you will do it because you don't know even that this is a mistake. In the end, then this kind of problem can cost you a lot, can cost lack of quality. And again, this problem is basically disrupting the definition of your role. Our role is to provide value. Value is not only about providing the rigid solution, it is also about value delivered through all the work products that we are creating. Requirements, models, other informational items. If you want to ensure that they are of good quality, you need to ask people who are the target audience, what is their opinion? My approach is that actually I'm not even asking people. I'm sitting with these people and we are trying to elaborate the best possible templates and approaches to creating work products so that they are happy. Because I am not producing the work product for myself. I'm not. I don't need them. Yeah, they are needed by another stakeholders, another members of my team. And they should be happy with them. The next thing, number 9, pride. Pride and lack of humility. That's quite sad. But this is the feedback that I'm getting from project managers, that very often they are considered business analysts are really pride. I know better. I will come to the organization. I will tell you how to do your job. Yeah? I will tell you the perfect solution. I know your requirements. I know the business. I will tell you what is your need. This is not our role to force our solutions. It is not our role to propose things that are not, let's say, based on the stakeholders' needs. This is not our role to ignore opinions, because our role is basically to help stakeholders to elaborate the solutions on the basis of business needs. Our role is to help facilitate communication. Our role is not to prove that we are the experts. And again, the effect can be that you will provide solution that is good from your perspective, but is not good from the perspective of stakeholders of the organization. You can destroy relationship, because how would you feel if someone is going to your project, to your organization, and this person is telling you, I will tell you how you should do your job? That's not nice. We wouldn't like to be in this situation. Then why we are doing it to stakeholders? In the end, again, this is not what business analysis is about. We are not the stars here. We are just, as the Bubble Guide, I believe, says, we are a kind of bridge between business and IT, business and technology. We are just a bridge. And the last one, the most important one, I think, at least from my perspective, we have problems with thinking holistically. We don't see the big picture. We are entering the project and we are focusing on small pieces, small bits, We don't understand the big picture. By big picture, I understand seeing the organization as a business system of elements that are connected to each other. Departments, stakeholders, business processes, they all create a system. If you will focus on your small part, your project, your solution, it may happen that you will deliver the solution that is not actually improving the operation of the business system. You need to look at the organization as a whole. Even if you are in the project, in a small project that delivers just a piece, in order to deliver a piece that will be valuable, you need to understand how the organization is working. If you don't, then there is a risk that you will deliver a thing that is good from this small perspective, but will not really help the organization. Effects, again, you will focus on your job. You don't understand what is the effect of your work products on another areas. You are not able to do the impact analysis. You are not really able to set the right priority of the change because you don't understand what is the value, what is the, let's say, priority of the value of the solution from the organizational point of view. In the end, you fail to deliver business value. This scene, the aspect of holistical thinking, is also related with system thinking. And I think that this is one of the most important problems in business analysis area. We focus on projects, delivering things without this big picture. And what can we do about that? As a summary, first thing, listen. Sometimes really the right solution is just to stop talking and listen to stakeholders. Listen, asking questions, not talking, asking questions. This is the first task of business analyst. What else? Planning, proper planning. Planning information architecture, planning stakeholder engagement, planning communication. Yes, communication should be planned. What else we should do? Be precise. Learn principles of requirements engineering. Learn how to precisely communicate. Build relationships, because all the businesses are about people. You will work with people. You can be expert in BPMN, in process modeling and whatever, but if you cannot create relationship, you will fail. Think in systems and think holistically. And the last thing, learn all the time. Because this domain, business analysis technology, is growing so fast that if you will stop learning, you will fail. That would be my last recommendation for you. Thank you very much. Okay, are there any questions?
So there is a chance to put a question in the chat on YouTube, and we will answer on it.
Okay. Perhaps I don't know where to look, but I don't see any questions.
Yeah, right now everyone says thank you, and
Okay.
thank you. That's all what we have. Okay, I don't know if anyone is typing, but looks like everything is clear for the audience.
Okay.
Okay. So, Karolina, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Dear audience, I'm glad to introduce the second speaker today. Stan Buchner, and his topic title is Requirements Conflicts, the Hidden Threats to Success. Stan, please.
Perfect. Thank you, Anton. Thank you for the invitation. So let me shortly share my screen. Here we are, I think. Okay, then let's start. Good. As Anton already mentioned, I'm talking about a bit requirements conflicts today, because quite often they are also kind of threat to success in our projects, in our businesses. And I think I've seen many aspects in the talk from Karolina already, where conflicts can really erase, and that we have probably some kind of conflicts. But before I start, let me shortly introduce myself. Anton already did. So I'm currently working for IREB. I'm managing director of the IREB, International Requirements Engineering Board. Before joining IREB, I've been worked in many IT projects. I've been an IT consultant for about 15 years in several roles. And especially I'm working in the area of requirements engineering since more or less 20 years now. What will I tell about you today? So first I'll give you a short introduction of IREB, what IREB is doing in the area of requirements. Then we come to the real topic and talk about what is really a requirements conflict, what are techniques to identify conflicts, common types of conflicts, and coming to the end of several strategies for resolving a conflict. And this is, in my perspective, quite important, because in each and every project I've been so far, there are a kind of requirements conflicts, because there are so many different people who are getting requirements from so many different sources. So there is so much potential for conflicts. And if we don't solve conflicts, maybe coming back to what Karolina said, we will fail to deliver business value in the end. But let's shortly start who is IREB in the end. IREB is an organization founded in 2006, and we are striving for quality in requirements engineering. And so we have several certification programs for requirements engineering and digital design. And in general, we are a membership organization of experts. They are coming from worldwide in the area of requirements engineering and design. And as of today, we are constantly somehow evolving, getting more focus on community, and especially also on aspects that are related to requirements engineering. We call them digital design. I will come to this a bit later. If you look on some numbers, and when I say IREB is an international organization and operating internationally, then we can also see this in figures, because so our examinations are done all over the world in mostly 100 countries. And we are working with a lot of partners, training providers, examination institutes, and also local partners, and having also several communities worldwide that help us to translate our artifacts in different languages. For instance, our foundation level is available in 12 different languages, also in Polish. Looking last slide from IREB to the products and brands that we have, maybe the most common and known one is our CPRE, Professional for Requirements Engineering, covering all the area of requirements engineering. I think this is especially interesting also for our business analysts, because our e-skills are also covered in the area of business analysts. And if you need to elicit requirements, specify requirements, manage requirements, I think this is a quite good source to have some more insights in it. Digital design is more the holistic thing of seeing a solution holistically, also what Karolina mentioned, seeing the business holistically. And here we also have a quite tense focus on the technology that's beside the requirements, to see how technology can help, especially in the area of digital transformation, to shape products. And the free resource that we are providing is the RE magazine, where we have about 100+ articles, all free accessible. So if you're interested, just have a look on our website. But enough from advertising. Coming back to the topics of requirements conflicts before we get a conflict in here. So when talking about conflicts, I think everyone has something in mind what this might be, but maybe I will give you some examples. So requirements conflicts, what is it? So in general, this could be if we have a requirement that's telling us customer data must be highly secure and comply with data protection. And on the other hand, another party is saying, hey, for our sales representatives, this data needs to be quick and easy, be accessible to get this customer information. So on the one hand, we have high security, and on the other hand, this needs to be accessible for each and everyone at the best, at least from the sales perspective, without any authentication. So here we need to identify these topics and we need to find a solution afterwards. Another thing is we want to have real-time updates, for instance, for our product catalog, that they are able to see all the newest prices, newest products available, the dependencies between the products and so on. And on the other hand, maybe operations is telling us, hey, we need to restrict the amount of data download because we have some networks and bandwidth troubles somehow at certain clients. This means we have to minimize the impact of the network bandwidth and latency. So this means also here they are somehow conflicting, and we need to think of how to solve this in our projects at the end, create some kind of proper solution, create some kind of value in the end. Or another example, access to a CRM for the sales representatives. They need to have quick access to the system. And on the other hand side, again, data security is a top priority, especially nowadays, and especially in days of getting more and more digital. Then we need to think of how both requirements can conflict. These are just a few quite super simple examples and where this is quite obvious, but there's so many different sources for conflicts. For instance, we have different perspectives of stakeholders. This means the more stakeholders and the more or departments we have being part of our project, the more potential for conflicts is in there, because we have to have changing business needs. We have, for instance, limitation of resources. We have limitations of technology. Not everything is doable by technology, for instance. This could also be a potential for conflict. We have a lack of communication, what Karolina already mentioned. So we need to have this kind of stakeholder engagement, and we also need to think of expectation management, because if we don't create the right expectations, we will lose our people, we will lose our stakeholders. This means this is quite important to create this kind of shared understanding, to really break down topics and at the very end, and to eliminate conflicts in the very beginning. And for sure, what we also see, I think, especially in the area of business owners, if you are changing business processes, if you're in the companies and changing complete areas and make a kind of digitalization, then it's quite obvious that people are also somehow feared, and there's a kind of resistance to change, because every new system that is somehow implemented will also require some kind of change of people, some kind of change of existing processes, and so on. That's why it's super important, in my point of view, to have in the very beginning a kind of clear communication. We need stakeholder engagement. We need to be clear of the context that is defined. We need to create a shared understanding. That are all techniques and methods to handle conflicts, or to identify conflicts quite easily or quite early, and to directly maybe eliminate conflicts. Because if all people have a kind of clear understanding of what needs to be done, then all these conflicts probably will not come up at the end. So what do you need to do to identify conflicts? Because they're not anytime that are vicious, that people are shouting to each other. At the end, you need to have to look out for this kind of conflicts to not fail in the end. Where to look out? One hand could be contradicting requirements in your specification, or even in a kind of workshop, if you are talking to people, they want just, let's say, different things, like we have explained in the examples from a security department. They want to be the super secure system. From a sales department, they want to have an easy way to interact with the customers, for instance. Unclear requirements. This means if requirements are not 100% clear, this is a potential for a conflict anyhow, because there's no shared understanding about this conflict. You have a lot of ambitious requirements. This is some problem you need to find, because if the requirements are not clear enough and if they are ambitious, then maybe if people read them, they interpret them in their own manner, and this will then at the end raise a conflict if the solution is live, if the system then is available in the end. Inconsistent feedback. So if the feedback you're gathering for your requirements, if this is inconsistent, this is also a potential for conflicts. Any open ends you probably have in your requirements. Open ends means if you have some missing requirements, something that's not clear from the process end, from the process beginning to the process end, if there's something missing in between, these are all potentials for conflicts, because maybe also sometimes obviously people just don't tell you the whole story to try to get their requirements through, because they know that there might be a conflict with another department, and so on and so on. When talking about conflicts and when dealing with conflict, it's quite important to see what is really the source or the heart of the conflict. So what is the conflict about? And there are different classifications, different conflict types that we have, for instance. On the one hand, we have subject matter conflicts. Subject matter conflicts we call if we have different faculty needs, for instance. So this kind of conflicts are mostly coming up if we use a system in different environments. So, for instance, if we have this in different countries, this means you have different tax regulations, different regulations on law, different regulations on data governance, and so on. So these are kind of subject matter conflicts that can come up, especially if you're developing systems for a multinational company. Data conflicts. When you're talking about data conflicts, then it's quite often that if people are missing the understanding of these sources, then they interpret data in a different way. This means the same data is somehow interpreted in another way, and this would also raise a kind of conflict. But in the end, they can be solved quite easily, just to make things more clear, to create a shared understanding, and so on. If people have different interests, interests means based on their role, based on their personal goals, and so on, they might have different interests with the solution that is implemented. For instance, in a role of a sales representative, I have a different interest than a person from operations department, from security department, from a legal department. So, and these are potentials for conflicts that can be addressed, and we call this kind of interest conflicts. Value conflicts. Value conflicts are a bit more deep than interest conflicts, because if we are talking about value conflicts, and it's more about functional, emotional, life-changing, or even social aspects that coming into this play. And here it's quite important to understand what is really the value, what is really the principle that is conflicting. And maybe we will find something on a higher level of the value pyramid to see how we can join both parties to find a better solution for them. Relationship conflicts also quite often happen, especially if we have different people that maybe already have some kind of negative experience with another party within this project or within this project setting. Then it's quite interesting to also identify, or it's super important to identify this conflict, because if you don't identify this relationship conflicts, this will also most often end in other conflicts like data, interest, subject matter, because the relationship conflict is just behind and then something else is coming up because the people cannot work together. And this is quite important to identify this kind of relationship conflict. Structural conflicts, if we talk about structural conflicts, it's more about kind of inequality of power. So this means if you have some structural relationships within your organization where someone is forced by his boss or whatever, and this is also quite important to understand that there can be this kind of conflicts. But at the end, it's also important for you as a business analyst or a requirements engineer to understand that not all of these conflicts can be solved in your role or in your daily work. But it's super important to also bring this structural or relationship conflicts on the table, because usually you cannot solve this based on requirements work if you have a relationship conflict between different parties. But you should identify the relationship conflict. You should identify if there are other conflicts that you can maybe solve, data, interest, or subject matter conflicts. And then you can go to the next step and see how this relationship conflict can be solved, maybe by project management, maybe by a line manager, or whom else. So as a requirements engineer or business analyst, it's super important that if you identify a conflict, then first you need to find out, you need to do some kind of analysis. What is this conflict really about, to really identify what is the heart of the conflict, and that you are quite aware how to solve it and how to bridge the gap. When talking about resolving conflicts, I think you have experienced that this is not super easy. In my perspective, it's anytime kind of big challenge, because each conflict in each project setting is somehow different, because there are different people, there's a different scopes, there's a different, let's say, setting that you have. This means it's always not easy, or there's not that one solution to solve one conflict. I mean, the best thing what you can do is somehow make everyone happy while solving a conflict. But this is quite often not easy. This is for sure possible if you have some kind of, let's say, conflicts that something is misunderstood, or if you need to create some kind of more awareness and just to be more transparent, then you can make everyone happy by resolving a conflict. Another way of dealing with conflict is say, hey, I can make no one happy. We need to stick on a certain solution, and there is no way out. Both parties, I cannot really serve both parties with the solution I'm really going for. I'm not sure if this is the best solution, but sometimes we also need to escalate certain things, and also maybe then the end result is that people are not happy. But this shall not be the way we shall force for, and that we shall go for. Another way is, and what's quite often, make one group, one person, whatever, happy with the solution. And now we will have a deeper look inside how to resolve this conflict and how to come to one of the three categories. Making everyone happy. As mentioned, I think this is the most or the best way to deal with conflicts or to resolve conflicts. One way to do it is a kind of creating an agreement. So if we have different people, so for instance, one needs private customer data that needs to be captured, the other needs business customer data that needs to be captured. So I mean, here it's quite ambitious and quite easy that based on, for instance, additional attributes or whatever, you can find this kind of agreement. So this means you can find what is the best out of the two divergent solutions, and you maybe create, just merge them, or you create something that's somehow in between that both parties can live with. Another way is to make both parties happy is creating variants. Creating variants is a super interesting aspect, but it's quite often not that cheap, because you need to investigate how this variance could be built. So a variant, or an example for a variant, could be a white label platform. This means if different business units in different countries want to introduce or want to use this product, then you can have maybe based on configuration parameters, different instances, and so on, a kind of platform that can be used, and you have some kind of switches that could be used to either use variant A or variant B, but you need to think of, and this hasn't quite impact on the solution, and at the end it's more expensive and you need time to figure out this complexity. Being partially happy means everyone is likely happy or unhappy. This is the compromise. I mean, this is a classical one that you probably know. Creating a kind of compromise could be, for instance, if you have something like, instead of kind of super safe access to customer data, you could also try to have kind of easy to use two-factor authentication, for instance, with a single sign-on and a second secret that is maybe needed. And this could be a compromise for a data security officer and also a sales agent, that this system is still usable, but that the whatever security requirements are fulfilled completely. Another example could be if we say, hey, there is no way out, and I cannot find a compromise, I cannot find an agreement, I cannot build variants because I don't have time, whatever, then maybe one solution could be that one group wins and the other somehow loses, and the technique could be voting. And voting is, in my perspective, also a nice tool for creating a kind of quite objective result at the end, because if everyone in the project, not only the two parties that are somehow have this conflict, but everyone in the project is voting on a certain solution, and we have an objective result in the end, and we can create also a kind of agreement that's useful and usable for all the participants that we have and for all the stakeholders. I think last thing that we can go for is also a kind of overruling. This is mostly done by line management or whatever, or some party in the project that is paying for the project, that we say, hey, we cannot find a proper solution with all the for this conflict. Maybe then a kind of overruling, this means support from line managers, for instance, is necessary. But in my point of view, this is most often not the best way, because at the end, mostly these people who are not making this decision making, not so overruling, they have to work, they have to live at the end with the given solution. This is something that should be somehow really rarely used. What's important when we talk about conflicts and also when we solve conflicts, because you've probably experienced, you thought, okay, this conflict is solved, and then whatever, 1 week later, 1 month later, it pops up again, maybe by the same group or by another group. And here it's super important that you have also a kind of documentation of this resolution, because if you will end the conflict, you should end this once and for all time. It's most the best. This means all assumptions you have created for this conflict and for resolving this conflict, that should be documented. The potential alternatives that you have considered for this conflict should be documented. You also should document the constraints that were given to resolve this solution, and also the technique that has been used. And you should also somehow document the reasons for the chosen resolution, because otherwise, if you don't document the reasons, then it's pretty much an issue that you will over and over come to this point, and that people say, hey, that's not the reason why. And I think here it's super important to also document what was really the reason why the solution has been chosen. Finally, yes, the decision makers or contributors to the solution or to the selection, because if you have documented this, you can at least go back and talk to these people, and then maybe they can support you with coming back to this proper solution. So if you don't document, in my point of view, you will always come to the same issue over and over again, and then you will really lose time, lose efficiency, and that's one of the poorest things we can do in the project. It's somehow kind of wasted time. So step by step, how to resolve conflicts. Identify, make this analysis and classify what kind of conflict it is, data conflict, interest conflict, whatever. Trying to find a conflict resolution with variance, compromise, agreement, or overruling in the worst case, and document the resolution. I think this are the 4 major steps that you need to go through when coming to a conflict and when you identify a conflict to find a proper resolution. This was just a rough overview of dealing with conflicts. So if you want to learn more, may you have a short look in our foundation level. So the handbook and also the study guides is completely freely available on our website. There's a dedicated chapter on elicitation and also on conflict resolution, and in our advanced levels for requirements engineering, requirements elicitation, there is also a whole chapter about conflict identification, conflict resolution, and also here the handbook is completely free for download. Just have a look on our website, ireb.org, in downloads, and where you can download it. That's all from my side. Thank you very much. And one last hint for you. On April 25, we will have a conference in Warsaw with 10 talks about requirements engineering, business analyst, agile, and plan-based. So if you're interested, you're super invited. Just visit us. You will find this conference if you follow us on LinkedIn. And I will be happy to see you in Warsaw in April. So that's all from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stan. Again, I want to remind the audience that there is a chat where you can send your questions, and we will be glad to answer. And as far as I can see, we have the same situation when first we receive a lot of thank you words, but let's see if someone has a question.
And also, if you have a question just after this session, so if something's just popping up in your daily business, just drop me an email or just drop me a note at LinkedIn. Here's my barcode. You can scan. You can see me on LinkedIn. So just leave me a message, and I will try to answer.
while maybe someone is typing, I can say that yes, below the video in the description, you all can find the links to the International Requirements Engineering Board and to the Andersen company. Also, names of the speakers are also there, so you can contact any of us. You can read the information by the links. Feel free to do that. And yeah, I still do not see questions, but everyone is saying the presentation was great.
Perfect.
All right, so I want to say thank you all for joining our event today. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you do, you can share the link to this video to your colleagues, to your friends. Feel free to do that. The links in the description. Thank you once again. And I hope we will see you next at our next events.
Thank you so much. See you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.